They say laughter is the best medicine, but do you know that laughter is also one of the best teaching aid there is? With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I will be presenting a paper on the use of humor in teaching. Assalamualaikum and greetings to everyone. I am Nursyafiqah Zabidin and I'll be presenting a paper with the title of Assessing Humor Appreciation Among Pre-Diploma Students. Let's start with the introduction section of this paper. What is humor? Humor is any comic or absurd quality that stimulates the feeling of amusement and that contradicts our expectations. So, what about humor appreciation? Humor appreciation can be defined as one's ability to understand the humor and to react accordingly. Now, when talking about humor appreciation, it is important to know that it is gradient rather than categorical, and that participants' evaluation of funniness can be a measurement for the degree of humor of the humorous stimuli that they have. Now, recent studies on the application of humor in the classroom has found that humor is positively influential. Thus, humor is widely advocated with some provisions. And one of those provisions is for the humorous materials to be carefully selected before they are being used in the classroom. And that is what my paper is about. One of the steps of using humor in the classroom. Moving on to the objectives of the study. There are three objectives. Firstly, to explore the appreciation of three narrative jokes among pre-diploma students to be used in further subsequent studies. Secondly, to add more teaching materials that can be used by English language instructors. And thirdly, to provide more insight into the use of humor in the education setting. Research questions. There are 4 in total. Firstly, how did the participants rate the jokes provided? Secondly, which jokes were the most preferred and the least preferred? Thirdly, is there any correlation between their genders and their jokes rating? And fourthly, is there any correlation between their English grades with the rating of the jokes? Moving on to the methodology section of this paper. This study involved an intact group of 32 pre-diploma students from the Business Administration faculty in a public university in Malacca. They were asked to attend a reading session, during which they were given a set of 3 narrative jokes, which were taken and adapted from Reader's Digest Asia. They were asked to read and rate the jokes using the scales provided. The data was analyzed using SPSS for this paper. We have 2 tables on this slide. Table 1 indicates the genders and the number of participants involved in the study. As you can see here, there were 12 male students and 20 female students or participants involved. Let's look at the grades of these participants. There were 8 participants with the grade A, 10 with A minus, and 13 with B plus English language grades. So we can see here that they can be described as participants with moderate level of English proficiency levels. Let's take a look at the results of the study. To answer RQ1, how did the participants rate the 3 jokes provided? A 1 sample proportion test was done. We compared the proportion of participants who rated each joke as very funny or moderately funny against a test value of 0.5. As indicated in Table 3, joke 1, for joke 1, 12.5% rated it as very funny. Similarly, for joke 2, 12.5% rated it as very funny. For joke 3, 25.0% rated it as moderately funny. The details can be seen in table 3. Moving on to the results found to answer RQ2, which jokes were the most preferred and the least preferred. Table 4 showed the data found for the most preferred joke. As you can see here, 65.6% reported liking joke 1, while 34.4% indicated a preference for joke 2. Meanwhile, in table 4, we can see the least preferred joke where it is clearly seen here, 53.1% of the participants reported disliking joke 3. So it can be said here that the most preferred joke would be joke 1, while the least preferred joke would be joke 3. This is the result for RQ3. Is there any correlation between their genders and their rating of the jokes? In order to answer that question, a Pearson correlation coefficient analysis was done, and it was found that genders were not significantly correlated with any of humor ratings. So the details can be found in table 6. Now, this is the result to answer RQ4. Is there any correlation between their grades and their rating of the jokes? Another Pearson correlation coefficient analysis was done, and similar to the previous data, the relationship between grades and humor rating was not significant. As you can see in the table here, it can be said that again there was no correlation between between the grades and humor rating of the participants. Let's continue with the discussion part of the study. Based on the results found and presented just now, Joke 1 and Joke 2 can be considered as humorous stimuli that can be utilized in both further studies as well as in the classrooms. Meanwhile, Joke 3 was not deemed humorous and was not suitable to be included in both further studies as well as in classrooms. Now, humor has been found to help in building rapport in the classroom as well as in aiding vocabulary comprehension and retention. So apart from the joke ratings, the study also found that genders and language proficiency did not significantly correlate with the humor ratings. This actually corroborated one study reviewed, but contradicted some of the studies reviewed in this paper. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the conclusion part of my presentation. So the ratings given by the participants justified the selection of 2 out of 3 narrative jokes, namely joke 1 and joke 2, presented in this study as both teaching materials in the classroom and as research materials in future studies. Apart from the jokes rating, it was also found that the participants almost equally appreciated the jokes presented, regardless of their genders and English language proficiency. So, since the results of this study both corroborated and contradicted other past studies, more explorations are needed with the hope of expanding our understanding on the use of humor in language teaching. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention and time. Good day and Assalamu alaikum.